I wanted to put this video out there for everyone that's curious to get the astrology perspective on the elections. So, my perspective is this: without looking at the natal chart, without trying to forecast with all of the number of techniques we have in astrology to forecast who might win, I'm just going to look at and talk about the fact that we have not one, not two, but 5 big planets, slow moving planets, switch signs between now and next August. So we have the planet Jupiter, Saturn, Neptune, Uranus, and Pluto. Forgot Pluto. Pluto is actually going to be the first one that's going to switch signs first on November 19th. These are the outer planets. We call them outer planets because they are on the outside of the solar system and they also move a little slower. So when you look at these planets within your chart, they usually say more about the generation in which you belong than you as a person, because you share a placement, because they take so long to move through one sign of the zodiac. They will put their mark usually on a whole generation. So the slowest moving one of those is Pluto. Takes anywhere between 15 to 25, sometimes 30 years to move through a zodiac sign. It's about to switch signs on November 19th for the last and final time. It actually started dipping its toes into Aquarius starting last March 2023. So we started seeing some of the themes that Pluto in Aquarius is going to signify. And I looked at Pluto and seeing in what part of the natal chart for Harris and Trump it's about to move in. And what I saw was very revealing. It took me a while to sort of analyze and just sit with what the meaning of this was, but I think I have a pretty good grasp, that I feel pretty confident talking about it, and also feeling that it's important enough for me to share it here on my channel. So Pluto, I just want to mention for those who are new to this planet, Pluto is the planet associated with the god of the underworld. So Pluto rules, in psychology, we can call that part of the psyche that is called the shadow side of our humanity. And here we're talking about both the personal shadow, but also the collective shadow. So wherever Pluto is moving, you are promised to start uncovering some deep themes that are coming possibly from the shadow, your own shadow, and also the collective shadow, which here in the collective shadow, I personally also put the ancestral or the genetic, or things that don't necessarily belong to you as an individual, but belong to the line of humans that you come from. So having Pluto activate a certain part of your chart means that Pluto is going to activate themes associated with that particular part of your life. And also, it's going to give you a lot of power. And this is, I kind of struggled putting into words what that means, because power is one of those words that is just thrown a lot, quite a bit. But when I talk about power, I talk about the awareness as a human being. So the power of knowing not just the superficial things about you, your persona, the things that are so easy to identify with, not necessarily always easy. Some of the things that we identify with, we're not really that comfortable with. But also, power is knowing what you don't know, or at least being comfortable with the things that you don't know about yourself. And having a healthy sort of relationship with this part of your humanity, I believe, is a very important part of healthy and happy life. So I'm not going to say that what Pluto brings is, oh, it's just this wonderful, deep, rich experience. It does, but at the same time, depending on how you navigate your own life, it can actually be very confrontational energy to reckon with. So, going back to Harris and Trump. Donald Trump is a Leo rising, which means Aquarius is in his 7th house. So Pluto is about to move into his 7th house. And Kamala Harris is a Gemini rising, which means Aquarius is in her 9th house. So I wanted to spend some time talking about the 7th and the 9th house in astrology. The 7th house is the house opposite of the 1st house, which means the house 180 degrees from a person, of that person's personality, identity, even physical body, mental health, all of the things that we embody, our persona. Well, the 7th house is opposite. So what belongs here is all things we see. So we have a clear line as us versus the other. So the 7th house is the house of, number one, the other. So from here, there's other significations that astrologers have linked to the 7th house. One of them being, this is the house of contractual relationships. So this is where your work relationships, your job that you work under contract, your business partnership, but also personal, intimate relationships like marriage belongs in the 7th house. Also, the 7th house is something that astrologers have linked to what we call open enemies. And this is the important thing I wanted to emphasize. Open enemies means people that you are acutely aware that exist as opposite of you, people that you see as different from you. Now, we all have a different relationship with the other, or the person that we see as different from us. And some of us have a more confrontational nature towards these relationships, but some of us have a little bit easier and easier way of navigating these relationships. Now, what does it mean when Pluto moves into your 7th house? It means that your open enemies are about to become the people who will give you Plutonic lessons. And it's also the open enemies is who is going to get the upper hand here. I just want to emphasize that. In this scenario, when there's a planet moving into your 7th house, there's your open enemies, among other things, will get somehow the flavor of the planet that's moving into this house. So that means Trump is about to get open enemies who get a lot of potency, a lot of power, a lot of oomph. And if he is the one to win, it's almost guaranteed, looking from astrological perspective, that he is going to challenge open enemies, of which United States has plenty, as we all know. And I don't think that bodes well for the United States. On the other hand, Kamala Harris is getting Pluto in the 9th house. And I had to sit with this for a while to really figure out what the 9th house Pluto transit can signify. And I went through a range of indications that tell me with almost certainty that what this means is that she's going to be two things. Number one, she's going to be very, if she wins the US elections, presidential elections, she's going to become someone who's going to get a strong experience around being a mediator between known realm and unknown realm. Now, this can happen on multiple levels. It's really difficult to to figure out which one it's going to be. For example, for context, the ninth house is the house associated with higher knowledge. And higher knowledge can be, ninth house activation can mean time when you are working on your PhD. So you are becoming from a master to a philosopher, or you are even your higher education, like your bachelor's, can be in this area. Also, it's associated with priests. So people who have a profession in a way where they are the mediator between worlds. So you are helping other people with higher knowledge. Priests have been traditionally the mediator between that higher knowledge and other people. Also, one interesting, for example, I looked at people who have Pluto in their natal chart natally. Oprah is a person that has Pluto in the ninth house. And if you look at what she has done with her talk show, she basically has channeled all of this knowledge that doesn't necessarily come from her, but she has brought in different people that hold certain kind of knowledge, and she has publicized it in a way that she has brought it out to the people. So I thought that was a very interesting theme. Also, I wanted to mention, I saw one of the videos on TikTok recently about a person called Daryl Anka who channels being of higher intelligence called Bashar, who is a extraterrestrial who weighed into who Bashar thinks is going to win the election. Bashar didn't say one way or another, but Bashar said something that confirmed what I was seeing astrology-wise, and that's, if he said, quoting, if the male wins, there's going to be World War III. And if the female wins, there's going to be open contact. So when I heard that, I was like, that actually lines up with what I see astrologically, because World War III would mean that Donald Trump activates all of his open enemies, and in Donald world, that we know what that's going to look like. He's very strongly stood by nationalism. It's been very strong, us against them, talking about closing borders, talking about we are better than the rest of the world, and this really aligned with having Pluto in the seventh house and thinking that as a head of state who's getting a transit like Pluto in the seventh house, he's going to by default embody this transit on behalf of the whole country. Now, the open contact concept was kind of new to me. I don't dabble with extraterrestrials. I don't particularly know much about that. What I do know is that I'm pretty sure we're not the only beings in the universe that exist. And I do think there's more to us than this humanly form. And whether there's extraterrestrials that are trying to communicate with us, or other beings, or spirits, whatever it is that you believe or you give a name to the unseen, I think getting Pluto in the ninth house for Kamala Harris, I definitely can see a theme where she's going to become somehow challenged in a way to learn how to become a mediator between some knowledge that exists out there about a higher consciousness, whether we call them ETs or spirits or whatever, what have you. I do see that this actually aligns. Now, it can really play out in many different ways, but I'm going to leave you with this. If I were to look at a ballot and there's two candidates who are about to become the president of the United States, which is a very powerful country, and in many ways what happens in this country really paints a picture about what's happening in the world, for better or for worse. And if I see that one person gets Pluto in the house of open enemies and the other person gets Pluto in the house of higher knowledge, it's an easy choice for me. as an astrologer, even if I never turned on the television, I did not know what's happening in the world, I don't know anything about the political beliefs of these two candidates, I would personally vote for the person that is getting Pluto in the ninth house. So do what you will with that. I thought it was the one thing that me as an astrologer was able to make a distinction, and as a human being that actually does care about the future of this planet, I think we all need to vote with alignment to our beliefs. I think it's important to vote. I think it's important to tune out the noise and to make a choice. So I had some video problems, but I just wanted to end this video with saying I hope you go out and vote. Use your voice, cut out the noise. You matter. Don't let anyone tell you differently. And be kind to yourself, be kind to others, and everything will be okay.